From the moment you walk into the showroom floor at Trap Cadillac, you understand our commitment to providing a truly exceptional experience for all returning and new customers.
Our goal is to make sure you're always comfortable while understanding the entire process of getting into your new Trap Cadillac.
When you drive a Trap Cadillac, you know performance, bold styling, and our sure commitment to service.
One thing you can always count on here at Trap Cadillac is our excellent service experience.
All right, welcome back. Bayou time here. Martin False along with the Senator, Mike Fesi, and we're going to talk about tax reform, what took place in Baton Rouge. I know a lot of you have questions. It doesn't matter who we talk to. Each of you have a different angle on what you perceive taking place in Baton Rouge, what your senators, what your legislators are doing, and rightly so. You have a right to question. You have a right to put in your input. And that's why the good Senator Mike Fesi came on board. He wants to answer some questions and maybe correct some myths, tell you some truths, and let us know exactly where we stand. Good Senator, good to see you.
Thank you, Martin. It's glad to be here.
Yeah, let me give you the opening floor to just talk about it a little bit, and then we'll go into some specific questioning.
All right. Well, we did real tax reform that's been needed for 50 years. And what it is, state of Louisiana was 48th in the nation on how bad our tax policies were. So by doing the things that we've done, it should move us up into the top 20s. And as things really kind of set place and set in place and move the state forward, hopefully it'll push us into the top 10.
So you've heard the argument. Heck, y'all been in Baton Rouge listening to everybody, but critics would argue that tax reform will put a lot of pressure on low-income families as the sales tax would go to 5%. Any balancing act there?
Well, it's a big balancing act. What we did is, when you raise a sales tax, everybody pays, and that's the most important thing, is that everybody's going to pay. But for the ones who are, that need some help and have hard times, a lot of the things is that they was telling me that, well, heck, they can't even afford to buy groceries now. Well, the thing is the misconception there's no state sales tax on groceries. So raising it to that 5% mark did not affect anybody buying groceries. Mm-hmm. The groceries are taxed by the local parishes, and that's another big misconception, is that we're the highest tax state, sales tax in the nation. Well, it depends. As a state tax, we're 5%. Texas is 6%. But why their total tax is less is because they put a cap on their counties and said each county cannot charge more than 2% sales tax, which gives them a total of 8%. And they said, well, how do they do that? By capping them. I said, well, the thing there is if you dig in deep, the property tax is much higher in Texas, and that's how they make up the difference.
Let me ask you this, because if you make a good point. So I think groceries is everybody's main concern.
Right.
Talking about groceries, you heard that in the presidential election for that matter. We're a little different. We have to balance a budget here in Louisiana each and every year. But if you take people just going out and buy items, most people, especially low income, let's talk about that, they're going to get by. They're not going to go out and buy a very expensive vehicle or a ski boat or something of that nature. So they'll fall in the same categories as others percentage-wise. But when you look, let's break it down into a scale of 1,500 or 1,000. What will they actually be paying?
Well, if they spend $1,500 on full taxable items in a month, $1,500, which is a lot for most families, they would only cost them $8.25 more that month. If they spend only $1,000 a month on taxable items, we're talking about $5.50. But in that return, we did some other things to balance that out, and we'll go into that on the next couple of questions.
Yeah, so, while we talk about the highest sales tax in the country, let's put that into perspective. I'm curious to hear that myself, because there's so many ways you can you could have a high sales tax, but then you could get them a better income tax return, let's say, to neutralize it a little bit. Anything like that we should be looking at?
That's exactly what we've done. The main thing for individual income tax, we reduced it to a flat rate of 3% when it could go as high as 7 or 8. The whole thing about getting a flat sales tax, income tax, personal income tax rate is, as things go, what we're really pushing for, actually, I pushed for going to 6% on sales tax because we could have went to 0 income tax.
But Texas is what, 6.25?
Yeah, 6.25 on state tax.
Yeah. So explain why you would have wanted it at 6. Is there
Well, I want to push the idea that you can come to work in Louisiana and there's no personal income tax on state income tax.
Okay. How'd that fly?
It didn't go too good because it was too much of a push, and I understand that, because I see the comeback we have on just moving it to 5.
But the property tax, if I'm reading right, in Texas is almost 3 times that of Louisiana, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah. So isn't this whole thing a balancing act? And when you look at the other reforms that y'all do during a special session, you got to take into account all kind of things. I bet y'all have people tugging on y'all left and right, really in both areas, don't you?
Definitely. And the most important thing is getting our businesses, our hardworking companies here in Louisiana, a chance to get better. What I've been fighting ever since I got in business, almost 40 years ago, I remember getting my tax return one year, and we had borrowed a bunch of money to do some expansion. I had this extra tax to pay, and I asked my accountant, I said, man, what is this? He said, well, that's your franchise tax. I said, man, I don't own a franchise. He said, no. A franchise tax is on your capital. Whether you borrow it or not, you're going to pay tax. I said, well, what kind of craziness is that? I said, because you hurting the growth of companies. Right. And so ever since then, I've been fighting to get rid of franchise tax. And guess what we did this year? There is no more corporate franchise tax on corporations in Louisiana.
Well, you got to win. Let's do this. We'll take a break. We're going to be right back with the Senator, Mike Fesi. Don't go away. Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights. All right, welcome back. We're talking with Senator Mike Fesi. We're talking about, of course, taxes and tax reform here in the state of Louisiana. And I know in talking with Big Mike, he's been getting hit in all different directions. So I envy y'all for being up there sometimes because y'all really got to look at the whole thing. But with Louisiana eliminating the corporate franchise tax and reducing corporate income tax, it becomes an explanation game is the best thing that I could say, because a lot of people, especially Louisiana residents, are saying, well, wait, how does that affect me and not just the corporate business? And some people are both. So how does it balance?
Well, the big balance there is, as a southern state, we're the only state that hasn't grown in population with everybody moving south. The reason being is because of corporate franchise tax and a high corporate tax and state income tax individually. So we wanted to work on those 3 things. Well, we got rid of franchise tax. We cut the corporate income tax down to 5%, which is a tremendous win. And so the individual says, well, how's that a win-win for me? It means more jobs, more higher paying jobs, because the companies can now grow and spend their money more on their employees and growth and get our economy moving. Now, where another misconception is, is as our population didn't grow, expenses of everything grew. So now we're having to really fight our budget because we still got those same costs that have increased, but no more people added to make the tax base bigger. And so that's why it's so important to move our state forward and do these changes that we hadn't been done in over 50 years and get us in line with the North Carolina, Tennessee, and all those guys that are really rolling by doing this 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I guess it's got to make you sick. It sort of makes me sick every time I hear somebody go, well, we didn't relocate to Terrebonne Parish because of the tax situation. I'm going, my God, I think over the years, let's think about it, we missed a Boeing opportunity along the years in Louisiana. We missed Disney way back in Louisiana. But what y'all have done, like the 3% flat tax on the personal income tax, let's just pick let's pick teachers, for example. I would imagine that that's going to help teachers get a couple of $1,000s in their coffer.
Well, what we did for teachers, we took one of the large savings accounts we had built up by being, very, very, I guess, taking care of business and making sure we could save money for the state. We paid off one of the debts for the retirement funds, and that way, when we did that, it saves enough interest to give the teachers as much as a $2,000 a year raise. So that was part of what we've done too. And so I know the teachers are going to love this. I know we got to vote for it in March. So we need everybody to turn out because this is to vote to make sure we pass this so we can move our state forward.
Who would vote against that? Because here's the thing. And every time I ask that on TV, somebody pops up and goes, yeah, let me tell you why I voted against it. But when people are relocating to Louisiana and the moms get in the cars with the husbands and they're driving around to see where they're going to be living, you know one of the first places they go to? The schools.
Yep.
I want to see what the schools look like. They might go to the schools before they go to the church. And so that's a major thing. So by keeping teachers in or more incentivized to stay in, that's really helping the cause.
Well, it's so important to keep good teachers in our education system going, and then that goes to a whole nother element. We got all of these young people graduating from universities and leaving the state.
Very true.
And because they get such a better opportunity, because other states are growing and faster, and we better do something, which is what we've done this time, and I think it's going to make a big difference. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will make a change over the next couple of years.
You're right. You're almost looking at a marketing aspect to, I know the local hospital has meetings and get-togethers with people who have gone off to medical school just to ask them, look, we'd love to see you back in Houma. And I know a lot of businesses are doing the same thing. In years past, when you graduated from med school, you were going back to your hometown. That's not the case today. So it's almost like the portal.
Yes.
So like you got to recruit your own citizens to come back to your hometown. And so Louisiana has to start thinking marketing-wise, and I know y'all are out there trying to think that way.
Yeah, it's like I said, we have a lot of hard work ahead of us, putting this implementing this into movement, getting things going in the right direction. It's been really tough to get everybody on the right page to understand exactly what we're doing. But if we do nothing at all, we're going to just keep going down, and down, So heck, we'll be number 50th before you know it.
You've always come up with things, and let me be honest with you, people say, well, that's unattainable. How could he come up with that? But you always come close to getting it.
Yeah.
So I know you shoot house. You said you wanted 6%. Well, you got 5%. So you're on the right avenue. And sometimes I think you probably put your numbers high so you could end up where you really want to be. But so I think some of the things that you've really tried to get, you're getting. So I like the fight anyway. Let's take a break. I want to come back and ask you about personal income tax and different things of that nature. We'll get on that topic. We'll take a break. We're right back with the Senator, Mike Fesi. Don't go away. Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. All right, we're back talking with Senator Mike Fesi, our last segment, so we're going to get it in here. Been talking about tax and tax reform. Let me ask you this, Senator. So Donald Trump's new plan, we're going to know about it real quick. We're going to know how easily it gets pushed through. But if that is pushed through with a incentivized Louisiana tax plan, boom, boom, boom.
Yes, sir. That's the whole point and why our governor was pushing so hard to do something this year. And putting all that together, hopefully Louisiana will see a great growth. The biggest thing about everything we've done, you're going to have a big registration to get growth in businesses. You're going to have population increase, which spreads that tax base out that you can, hopefully we can cut the sales tax down in 3 or 4 years. And because now we got enough people in here to match the overhead.
What about overtime? People are making overtime, and there's always been talk about giving them a break when you tax overtime.
Well, that was my key. 15 years ago, I went to a Mary Landrieu town hall, and I'm on video preaching to her, if we do no income tax on overtime, will cause an economic boom throughout this whole country. She kind of just blew it off, no big deal, but the crowd went nuts over it. So for 15 years now, I've been pushing and pushing. And so I had a chance to get that message to our new president-elect, Donald Trump. And when I got it to him and he put on the air that he was going to do no income tax on overtime, that came from right here in Houma, Louisiana, because I went through Steve Scalise, John Kennedy, all those guys, Cassidy. I had the whole delegation fighting for me to get that to him. And his economic guys said it would cause an economic boom in the country.
Did you go in the back room at that point and go, yes?
Yeah. Well, actually, Steve sent me a text message and said, "You the man."
All right,
and so
well,
I was
good.
excited about that.
Yeah, because that's some out the box, things. And when we're talking about totally repealing personal income tax entirely, a lot of people just don't fathom how that would work. Most of those people are on the left because they're so used to big government. Were you shocked when President Biden banned drilling?
Totally. I mean, look, I'm in the pipeline business. I even created 2 characters, Bernie and Earl, teaching the kids that we live in a plastic world. We cannot do without drilling. Everything we touch every day has been touched by petroleum one way or the other. That's the way it is, especially the medical industry. The medical industry would not be where it's at today without all of the tools that it uses that's made from plastic.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I know y'all are driven. People say, well, the state has nothing to do with the feds. Oh, yes, it does. The federal programs go right to the state, and the state has to implement things. But it's the positive things that always trickle down. And, of course, we know we have a governor who gets along very well with Trump. And this could be a marriage like no other that we see between Louisiana and the federal government. But if Trump spends a lot of his time trying to redo these types of blockades that have been put on them, it just takes longer for them to get through, doesn't it?
That's it. And it's, like I said, what he's doing in these last few days is unbelievable for our country. If you really love our country, there's no way anybody should be excited about what he's doing to us right now.
Yeah. All right, so where do you think everything ended up? If you had to grade y'all's session on tax reform, are we talking an A, a B, a B plus? Where are we talking?
I'd say it's an A plus because it hadn't been done in 50 years.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get this much done in that length of time, I think we did great.
And when you're talking to the business sectors, or when you go talk to the SCIA or the chamber and people of that nature, what's their response?
It's all good. It's all good. I haven't heard one bad thing from especially business growth and all that and bringing new businesses into Louisiana, because now they got a way to say, well, we can match that.
Yeah. And the whole idea, and I think everyone would agree, is when you get money circulating, I mean, on a state level, well, first a federal level, when you get it circulating on a state level and it trickles down to a local level, and just getting that consumer confidence back up to where people will go, yeah, I'm going to go buy a car down the street at the local car dealership because I have a job that I know is going to last me for at least the amount of the note, 5 years, let's say.
Right.
And I got a good job because we are drilling, we are working. Consumer confidence goes up, and then they not only buy the car, they go buy the boat, and they buy something else, and then all of a sudden, everybody's feeding off everybody.
And that was my whole thing about no income tax on overtime, because now that's the individual family's money to put back into our economy. And that's why it caused an economic boom, because now they can go buy that boat or new car or maybe a little bigger house or whatever. Because, I mean, just like all my employees, the overtime that they make, you probably putting an extra $500 to $1,500 in their pocket every month. That makes a big difference.
Well, it also helps the employer, because if we're paying overtime to an individual, sometimes if they know they're only going to clear a certain amount, there's less incentive for them to go in. Now, if they know they're getting the whole thing, man,
they're going to be begging for the overtime.
Yeah, that creates a lot of opportunities for everybody. So I appreciate you coming on board, and keep coming by and letting us know what y'all talk about. We appreciate the transparency, and we're looking for some big things from you guys and gals in Baton Rouge. So hopefully that marriage between Washington and Louisiana will be a strong relationship in the next few years. We look forward to hearing it.
I'll be glad to be coming back, and I just keep working hard for the people of this district.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
All
We
right.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Senator Mike Fesi, right here in our area. We'll keep you posted on developments as they occur here in the area. We're going to take a break. We have a lot more. Don't forget, I want to remind everybody that whenever you're watching HTV, we always post every story we do on Facebook and YouTube. And don't forget to get the app. Got people watching us all over the country who've moved away from Louisiana, but they like to follow us on the news. I run into people occasionally that come back into town, and it shocks me how many people are watching from out of town. So we'll take a break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.